the pain of staying was becoming bigger than risk-taking of jumping on something new. I started working small projects on Upwork. That's when I realized it can actually be possible, and it's a lifestyle that I enjoy as well. Some people are more predisposed to be founders. Maybe it's the environment or their social groups.
Was that a light bulb defying moment, or was that more of a process? How did it work for you?
So I still remember it actually. So it was
Chris Silvestri is a founder and conversion copywriter at Conversion Alchemy, where he helps SaaS teams turn confusing messaging into clear communication that boosts sales using psychology, UX, and strategy to scale with confidence.
I've always been of the idea of having a growth mindset, and so I think you can pretty much learn anything. If this doesn't work, I can still go back and find another job as a software engineer.
What about you personally? What's next for you?
For now, I've actually been a lot into exploring.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Founders Stories. I think so far, if they had a quick head count on the show, we've had founders, we've had investors, we've had exited founders, we've had all sorts of manner of people. But I can say with some confidence that something we've never had on Founders Story is and I have to get this right, a conversion alchemist. So if you're wondering what the hell I'm going on about, no, I didn't have too much to drink with breakfast. You're about to find out. We have Chris here today from Conversion Alchemy. He is the co-founder and conversion alchemist at Conversion Alchemy. Chris Silvestri, welcome to Founders Stories.
Hey Donna, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for traveling across as well to meet me in person. I think this is going to be a good session. In fact, I know it's going to be a good session, Chris. I know quite a bit about you after doing some research, and I can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty. So very quickly, before we get into the fun stuff, tell us about Conversion Alchemy. Tell us what a conversion alchemist is and the problems that you guys are solving.
Yeah, so I've always been fascinated by this concept, the idea of alchemy, right? Turning like raw materials into gold. And so I coined the term conversion alchemist basically to explain how I turn raw research data from customers, market, and competitors into actual copy that converts for my clients, which are mostly B2B SaaS companies. And I do it through a combination of research, copywriting, user experience design, and a lot of psychology, behavioral psychology that I'm a big nerd about.
So the output is copy, right? So it's quite simple. It's not as complicated as it might sound. And I think through our conversations, we share our ICP. I currently also work in B2B SaaS companies, but we're fixing different problems. But actually, without what you do, I would find what I do very difficult, because I'm helping people to increase their bottom line, create a more predictable sales process. Without good marketing, that is nigh on impossible. And without good copy, you can't have good marketing either. So you are really fixing a problem that, I don't know, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine not that many people know how much of a problem they have with what they're putting out there in their brand. Do you have any view on that?
A lot of potential clients that reach out, they actually suspect they have a problem with copy, but a lot of the times that we then dive deeper and we have the first couple of sessions, we actually find that it's a lot of strategic problems before even the copy. Because if you don't have the foundations, which is proper research and understanding of your internal perspective, customers, and your market, and then if you're not able to turn that into positioning strategy, messaging strategy, then also the copies, it gets harder to write properly and in a way that converts and resonates.
So do you work with kind of marketing agencies as well to form part of that team that delivers that brand positioning strategy?
I work with a couple of not strictly marketing agencies, but some of my partners are usually either branding design agencies or software development agencies or SEO agencies. So that any kind of agency that does a service that complements what I do for B2B SaaS companies.
Yeah. And what are the key kind of flaws that you find when people try and go it alone with things like this?
So I would probably say the first one is a lot of companies try to pitch right away what they do. For example, on their homepage, they start saying, we are, project management solution for XYZ. when in reality the most effective and powerful thing that you can do, probably the 80-20 you can do for when it comes to copy that converts, I think, is matching what I call the conversation that people already have in their heads when they land on your website. Because if you think about it, they already have a conversation in their heads, but also with discussions that they had with their teams or partners. Now, I would also suggest that there's also an additional conversation that they are having with LLMs, with AI, when they search for potential solutions and products. And so there's this whole super complex environment that you kind of have to solve and understand for to actually hook prospects when they land on your marketing asset or website.
I'd say you're absolutely right. I'd say 80%, and not just websites, that a whole library of sales assets, 80% of them start with something like "we are" or "we specialize in" or something like that. To everyone that's listening to this, if your own assets start with that, you should reach out to Chris, because I've the few clients that I'm working with at the moment, where marketing is one of the deliverables, and we're doing rebrands for. It's really something that I've gotten into. Is like the power of that kind of first impression, and trying to mimic the thought process of the person that is visiting or reading that asset is something that I don't think many companies, if they're really honest, have really gotten into. So how have you managed to grow the business with such lack of awareness around these pain points?
Yeah, I think it's probably selling the thing that they most want, which is the copy, and then diving in and finding out what actually needs to happen. And then, but it's actually like when we follow the process and we start diving into the research, we start speaking with customers, and I share the interview recordings and transcripts. They actually realized how important all this work is and how revealing it actually is of what they need to do.
Yeah, no, I'm in exactly the same boat. I have to go in with, I'm going to make you more money. And then once I can get around the curtain, then we start to fix the actual problems, which are the lack of revenue usually is just a symptom, of not doing the right things. So I completely resonate with that. And Chris, this sounds like something that would keep most people very, very busy for a good 50 hours a week. However, you manage to fit a whole load of other stuff in, don't you? So I know that I actually feel quite nervous today interviewing you, because you are a seasoned podcast host, sorry, much more so than myself. And you do a whole load of other stuff as well. So what does the world of Chris look like?
So, I mean, I have a podcast. I've been on 43 episodes. Actually, the last one came out today. Check it out.
Thanks, you
But
can use my podcast to plug yours. It's totally fine.
yeah, the podcast is all about message. It's called Message Market Fit Podcast. So it's all about messaging and copywriting. I have a newsletter that's also been going on for 2 years now. And yeah, I mean, I try to post content daily on LinkedIn. So the whole personal branding thing is a very active project as well for me. So yeah, but it's also useful, I think, both together with the podcast is very useful for me, I think, to think better, create better content IP, better ideas that I can actually share and reuse for content, and also for my clients' projects.
And a great way to sell what you do as well, because I assume that what you put out is pretty decent, and therefore people will want to replicate that in their own messaging, their own branding, the way that they distribute their content, etc. So if they see you doing it well, it's a bit like the whole hairdresser analogy thing, isn't it? If you walk into a salon and someone's got decent hair, you think, actually, I don't mind you chopping at me. So same kind of thing. And in all seriousness, I know I jokes, but it's really important that I think if this is triggering anybody, which I'm sure that it is, because I think we all know that we've been historically quite bad at that whole, like, this is what we do, this is the solution, like pitch slapping people through our sales assets. If you know you're guilty of that, you're not alone, don't be ashamed. Do something about it. And I think a real kind of toe in the water there would be to look at some of the stuff that you're putting out, whether it be the podcast or the newsletter, understand a little bit more, because we've only got limited time today. I could listen to it forever, but I think understand a little bit more about what it is that you're doing, and then maybe reach out to get some sort of discovery.
Yeah, because in everything that I put out, I try to be as practical as possible. Yeah, so I can give you like how-tos, maybe step-by-step guides, but I think some of the most important things that I share are also some mindset shifts. I think that once you understand them, you start looking at things differently, and then it kind of opens up an entire new world. Maybe it's a different resource that I share or a different framework.
In terms of your background then and what led you into having this business, it's got to be software development or marketing. Which one? Or a bit of both?
It's software development, but very different from the actual software development that people talk about in SaaS. So I've been a software engineer for 10 years in industrial automation. So imagine automatic assembly machines, kind of like robots in factories that assemble components. And in my area, where I'm from in Italy, it's all about the biomedical industry. And so we used to manufacture machines that assemble components like plastic bags or connectors that ended up in hospitals, right? Yeah, so I was a software engineer, which means basically my kind of the programming that I was doing was very much logical, very sequential. I needed to respect timings. I needed to work with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. So it was very like hands-on as well. It wasn't in the cloud. And so I used to travel a lot, used to be in workshops on the machines, actually, with the laptop, with my whole like super sanitized suit in white rooms. And yeah, that actually taught me a lot about putting myself in other people's shoes, though, that I actually understood in hindsight, because I also used to design the human machine interfaces, so touchscreen displays that the operators actually used to control those machines. So there was a lot of usability involved that at first, when I switched into marketing, I didn't actually connect the dots.
But this does. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. So you were in Italy then. So how long ago was that?
I moved to the UK in 2018, so that was
Okay,
basically
so not that long, 7 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So talk to us about your previous life then, if you will. Going to assume, I don't like to make too many assumptions on this podcast because, founders have been very naughty and have thrown me off into all different directions. But I'm going to assume that you were pretty good at school, that you could write and that you were very literate. I
Yeah.
could be completely
Yeah, I
wrong.
mean, I was probably not great, but I've always been like 0-10. I was probably 7. And I've always tried to do the best I could without actually putting a ton of effort, because I was always like on assignments, I was always last day within other things. But yeah, I've always tried to do the best with like maximizing enjoyment for other things that I was doing at the same time.
So you have always been a multitasker, right? So currently you've got this business, you've got the podcast, you've got the newsletter, you've got all sorts of things going on outside of work as well. That's always been the case so that's how you've basically grown up. I don't usually talk too much about kind of hobbies and interests and things like that, but yours are very interesting. So let's go with the things that you like to do outside of what was school then and is now work, because I think some of them have continued, right? The things that you did as a kid, you're still doing. So talk to us about those, because there's some really interesting ones in there.
Yeah, totally. Actually, it's interesting that you make me think about the multitasking, because I never actually thought about it, how it was before and now. But yeah, since I was 11 years old, I played basketball, I played drums, I had a band up till I moved to the UK, basically, and we tried to do it almost like professional level, even with the full-time job, which was a bit of a nightmare. And then other things, I mean, I'm big into movies, playing video games, working out every day, big into routine and philosophy, so a lot of variegated stuff.
Yeah. And you love tattoos.
Oh yeah. I mean, tattoos are mostly probably because of the music culture that I was immersed in, so punk rock and some metal as well. So most of my tattoos are around like music, lyrics, or some memories that I wanted to encapsulate with an image.
The reason I'm really digging into this is because I think we're in a time that it's kind of believed that if you want to be successful, you have to sacrifice so much. You have to sacrifice time, hobbies, family. You have to look maybe a certain way. And I just think that your story will be a real tonic to people who are kind of getting pushed down that path. What's your kind of your advice there? How have you lived your life and still managed to run a successful business?
So one thing that I remember from my old job was one kind of boundary that I always set myself, which was when it comes to tattoos. I like tattoos. I started getting them when I was 19. And so the thing that I said, it was, I'm not gonna start with the areas of my body that are hidden with clothes. I'm gonna start from the forearms, the most visible parts of my body. So that once I'm in, like they hire me at a job, even with the tattoos, then after that, like everything else is gonna be just easier if I want more tattoos, right? So if they accept me there for the way that I am, then everything else is just going to be like downhill, basically, if I want to get more tattoos. And it's the same thing, I think, with my routine and habits, with the working out. What I try to do is always not schedule my routine and habits around work, but doing the opposite. I schedule my routine and habits first, and then I schedule work around those. And so I think, kind of this idea of maybe setting boundaries right from the get-go, and then, and knowing what you want as well, it matters.
Definitely. And it's easier said than done, definitely, because, if a client needs something or you've got a big pitch going on and you've got to get your head down, then that is the case. But I do think is that kind of whole atomic habits thing is that if that's your non-negotiable, and really kind of thinking about what those are as well, because sometimes you have lots and lots of things going on and you have to work out what are your absolute non-negotiables. And with you kind of fitness training, it is a non-negotiable for me, but in order to make sure that I get it done every day, I've got to do it at 6 o'clock in the morning, otherwise it might have to slip. So I think if you want something and you've got that non-negotiable, the way to test if it's non-negotiable is how hard or how many mountains will you move to actually get to the gym that day, or to see your family, or to play basketball or whatever. You just said that you were kind of semi-professional. Is that drums or basketball?
Drums.
Okay, do you still play drums now?
I do a couple of shows every once in a while, just replacing the drummer for a band of friends. But so far, it's not been the priority, and also a bit of a logistical nightmare with the fact that drums, you need to have a card. You can carry your drums around. You need to have a place with drums.
Like a one-man band thing.
Exactly, So for now, it's not our priority, but I would like probably at some point to go back to doing it regularly.
Yeah, so a good example of that thing that kind of sits on the peripheral is something that you like to do, but you're not going to miss an important business meeting over it.
I went rehearsing on Sunday because we have a show in 2 weeks in Dover. And my hands are basically destroyed because you can see that I basically haven't played in months, and so as soon as you start,
amazing. What were your parents like? What were your family like? Were they musical?
So my dad was almost basically a professional musician in Italy up until the 80s. He's always been into music, 70s rock, Rolling Stones and all that stuff, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, which is also the music that I started to play when I was 11. And he wrote songs for one of the biggest rock musicians in Italy as well. And so, he kind of infused in me, and because I have a twin brother as well. So infused in both of us that the music tradition. My mom has always been had an office job. She's actually just retired, which I'm super happy for her. And but it was kind of a very artistic. There was this idea of always like you can have a dream and you can actually pursue it. I think you don't have to settle for like the status quo or whatever happens. Even my mom, if she had an office job, she's always been great, I think, at taking her time to do her own thing. She still is one of the founders of one of the few female biker clubs in Italy.
Wow, you've got cool parents.
And so, I think they helped a lot with this kind of mindset, I think, that I carry.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I mean, obviously, you take your own credit as well, because there are people that are very successful that have come from not great beginnings and never really had that support network. But I think it's very obvious that you've taken all of the good bits and absolutely used them to help you, and probably part of the reason why you are pretty easygoing now and happy to have it seems to me like you're somebody who wants to make the most of their time on the planet and not be too bogged down with things, and just kind of, and I think that can really help in business. Do you think that as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's all positive mindset that in a way you carry into your projects, into the conversations with clients. Like, for example, I just had one of the clients that I just signed. He was on my newsletter for a couple of 3-4 months. And you can see when we have conversations, like one of the things that he told me was like, I love the way that you think, like your approach to things. And I think it's all that mindset that kind of propagates in everything that you produce and you create as a founder or as a content creator. You carry it with you. The themes that you talk about, I talk about music or talk about movies in my newsletters even. So you kind of, I think you attract the people that resonate with you, the more you actually are able to convey your foundations, your roots in the work that you do.
It's one of the reasons we do this podcast as well, because I think often people just get defined by the product that they're building today. And it's been really interesting to kind of dig into them as a person and their stories and the things that actually really do make them tick and their callings in life or whatever. And that's what people really then hook onto. And once you get to know that person and you do find areas in which you resonate, someone else might be into tattoos or music or basketball or whatever. And that could turn into a really good deal for you in the end. But the reason why they first were warm to you is because you had similar interests. So, I'd urge everyone to be a bit more like Chris and just to show yourself a little bit more and your vulnerabilities and talk about the things that are important to you. I didn't know you had a twin because we'd not touched on that before. What's he like? Are you carbon copies or total opposites?
Very similar in like sometimes we literally already like we know what the other one is about to say before he
Oh,
says it.
really? That happens, does it?
Yeah. But I think that's mostly because we've basically done a lot of things together. Apart from the first, I think, 8 years in school, then we were in last years of high school together. Then we worked at the company, the manufacturing company together for 10 years. Then we played basketball together, we played music in the same band, we moved together from Italy to the UK. So that's basically an imprinting that I think.
Oh, so he's here too?
Yeah. He lives in Bournemouth now. We used to live in Winchester together. Now he bought a house in Bournemouth. So it's the first time that we are apart for like a 45-minute drive. But yeah, very similar. But I would say still, as far as character, I think there are some differences that once you start getting to know us, you realize what the differences are.
Yeah, it's so cool though and so sweet that you've kind of stayed together and that you both now moved over together.
I think it's always been a very good motivating partner. Like we've always pushed each other even to leave the old job together. Like he does more link building SEO and I've been doing copywriting, so we've always pushed each other to kind of and challenged each other.
Yeah, so it's great to always have that teammate, isn't it? Someone there to support you. It can be a husband, a wife, a brother, somebody that is, you just know that they're they're non-negotiable. They're there all of the time. They're a constant and they're there all of the time. I think it's a really important thing to have. And it's something that a lot of founders have actually attributed some of their, not necessarily their success, but just their sanity. So having somebody as a bit of a sounding board that they know they could rely on. So I'm interested to know a little bit about the journey between, so you've had a job, that was obviously in Italy, and at some point you've made the jump to being a founder and a business owner. And this is always something I'm quite interested in. It's like, was that a light bulb defying moment, in the middle of the night? Or was that more of a process? Is it always something that you knew that it was kind of niggling at you? How did it work for you?
Yeah, so I still remember it actually. So it was kind of a gradual thing and it was all born mostly from the fact that whenever we wanted to tour with the band, I needed to ask for time off like 3-4 months in advance because my company used to plan trips way before they happened. And so that started kind of me looking for, okay, what can I do? And I started looking online for how to make money online, the usual stuff. And back then it was a lot of crappy keyword stuffing SEO. There was a lot of SEO tools, scammy stuff. And then I stumbled on copywriting, so I started pursuing it. But I wasn't super convinced until like a very vivid memory that I have was when I was in Iran. So I think it was 2015, I think, in Iran, in this island in the middle of nowhere, working with these machines. And for some reason, there was like we had a fight. I had a fight with the team member or the boss of the company. I don't remember, but that was the moment that told me like, okay, I've had enough of this. Like I don't want to like be controlled by someone. Also because maybe I felt kind of isolated, like in the middle of nowhere, not being able to go back home unless I went through a myriad of bureaucracy and discussions that I didn't want to have. And that was probably the moment that I said, okay, now I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna try to make this thing that I'm doing work.
So somebody kind of prodded that and highlighted that to you. I think if we are the really interesting comment was made by a guest recently where he said that he thought there's a business in everybody. And it really stuck with me because it's an opinion that I don't think everyone will share. I think some people think that founders are wired very differently and the rest of the population are wired in a different way. But his view was that there was a business in everybody. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's a difference in the way that that our brains work as founders, or do you think that actually there's a business in everybody and it can just take a fight in the middle of nowhere to bring it out of you?
Yeah, I think some people are more predisposed to be founders. Maybe it's the environment or their social groups. But I've always been of the idea of like having a growth mindset. And so I think you can pretty much learn anything if you have the means and the will and the motivation. And like to me, that point was also the fact that the pain of staying was becoming bigger than the actual risk taking of jumping on something new. And so that kind of made me decide. But I think everyone pretty much, if they have a good strong motivation and a good idea, but also the willingness to put in the work, I think they probably can embark on an adventure. It doesn't mean that you have to be a founder per se, but maybe you want to join a more entrepreneurial organization so you can do your own thing.
Startup's a really good platform, isn't it? You know, if you're in corporate and you're thinking, I really want to do something by myself, actually going to a startup will be a really good a view of what it could be like when you see kind of people like my clients who are usually kind of going crazy most of the time, and they need to be calmed down and need that security blanket of, you know, a good team behind them, a good wingman. When you're in that environment, actually, you can see what it could be like for you if you were in their shoes. And if that scares the bejesus out of you, then the chances are you should go back to Aviva or wherever it is that you're working. So did you know what the business was going to be? Did you know that you were going to go down the copy route?
So I started immediately looking for courses and other examples of people who've done it. So I have this idea of becoming a freelancer was pretty much the first thing. And I saw it as a possibility. There was a lot of people talking about it. I started working small projects on Upwork. And so when I started making the first money online on the side, we're basically working on evenings and weekends. That's when I realized, okay, like it can actually be possible. And it's a lifestyle that I enjoy as well because I can manage my hours. Obviously, you need to sell yourself well. You don't have to sell the hours, but more the value and other things. But yeah, I think
at some point the revenue from the side hustle starts to surpass the wages, and you think, hang on a minute, the balance is out of sync here. Interesting segue, but the guy who washes my car has just done the same thing. He was working in a company and doing his valeting business in the evenings and weekends, and he just had that light bulb moment where he's gone, hang on a minute, I get more money doing that than I do with my wages. And that's a really good point as which to switch as well.
To me, I don't think it was actually though making that it surpassed the income, probably because I was dying to get out. So basically, but when I gave myself a rule, I think when I make the first $1,000 and I can see that I can get a couple of clients every month, that was, to me, that was a signal that okay, I can if I do this full time and I have 8 hours of work, I'm gonna make it work. And it's also, I tried and be disciplined enough to have savings so that I didn't have the pressure and the rush to do it.
quite, again, a pitfall that a lot of founders go down. It's like, right, I am the CEO of a company now. I'm going to go and buy a really expensive car. And it's like, actually, you're more of a self-employed person before you're the CEO, and you have to have people who that, like I said, they've actually sold all their cars as part of that journey, and that, you know, they've had no money whatsoever and been living off like tins of food for quite some time to build something. So I think that's a really good piece of advice as well, is if you're not going to take investment, you need to work out how you're going to fund that. And also another pearl of wisdom there, Chris, is actually to set yourself those KPIs and those milestones, to say what would mean that this business has proof of life. And if that's 2 clients, if that's £1 million worth of the pipeline, if that's $1,000 in the bank, whatever would say to you, do you know what, I'm onto something here, then it's really important to set those really early, isn't it? So you know when you get there, and you can say, right, I'm going to kind of take the plunge now.
Yeah, and also I think one thought process that I made was also, if this doesn't work, I can still go back and find another job as a software engineer, because my area was like, there was a lot of demand for that type of job, and I had 10 years of experience, so a lot of people were actually looking, and I could probably have been paid more than I was being paid at my company back then. So yeah, it was all upside, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And you now you've grown the business now. You have another team member working with you as a junior copywriter as well. So it's great that you can now give opportunities to other people coming through the ranks, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, it's been growing year over year, probably like around 30%. So like I don't want to build a huge agency. I've always consider myself a craftsman. And so I still like doing the actual job. I probably, like, the ideal situation would probably be, I don't know, 5 team members maximum, maybe 1 research specialist, 2 junior copywriters, maybe a designer as well, and an assistant. But I don't have big, huge plans of building a massive agency. I like being lean, profitable, and make it work smoothly.
I'm going to ask this because I know everyone will be thinking it. What has AI done to the business?
To me, it helped a lot scale things, and that's also probably why I didn't need to hire a lot of people still, just because I think if you have a good process, you can only improve it and optimize it. Obviously, a lot of clients now, they think they can write with AI, so it's also a lot of kind of education work that I try to do with my content as well, and show them the actual results, like using AI only, and then having a solid strategy research process with AI does different things. But I've also heard a lot of my clients, when we typically finish projects, they are able to take the strategy documents that we create, plug them into something like ChatGPT, for example, and are able to produce good work that maybe it's not great or it's not final polished drafts, but still they can actually scale and do some of the work even without me. So that's been pretty good to see that, and it's also a thing that I'm trying to do now, enabling them to use AI the right way rather than just leaving them to the madness or to the desert land of ChatGPT and custom GPTs.
A couple of key words there were craft, which is what it is that you do, which ChatGPT does not, and education. I don't think anyone can be blamed for thinking, well, what you do is a dying art because of ChatGPT. It would be really interesting to see at some point one of those comparisons that you made, and I think having that as a piece of content, you've probably already done it, would be a really big eye opener for anyone that thinks that ChatGPT or any other AI solution is a silver bullet, because it's really low quality and if without the right skills. And it's fantastic that you've said that straight away, as soon as I asked you about AI, yes, you identified it as a potential early objection from a prospect, but you've in your day-to-day in your business, it's enabling you and it's helping you and helping you to further enable your clients. And you're not telling them, hey, don't use this big ugly horrible thing. You're saying, actually, if you work with us, you will then gift you all of the content which you then can use AI to enhance later on down the line.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to like avoid or escape it. Like, we can't escape it now. It's basically everywhere and all around us, so you have to embrace it in some way and make it work. So that's why I'm constantly trying every new tool that comes out, probably using 10 different tools at the same time. And it's maybe also because of my software engineering background. I've always been curious of testing different things and workflows and stuff. It's the systems thinking in me, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That systems intelligence is a big one. Pulling it back to you for a second before we go into kind of what's next for you and the future of the company. One thing I know about you from our conversations is that you are teetotal. And you're in a environment where you're into music and playing the drums and things that are associated maybe with a bit of a party lifestyle and staying out all night and so whilst I'm not, don't want to get into it too much, but I'm interested in that. So can you just tell us a little bit more about that? I know it resonates with quite a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, when I play music, I used to party. We used to have a practice room that we basically trashed every weekend and have our like beer pong parties and have like police basically pass in front of it every night, like 3 a.m. But yeah, and I don't know, I got to a point where I realized I want to prioritize a bit more of like the routine, the consistency. And I've never been someone who actually loved drinking. I mostly enjoyed like the community aspect of playing beer pong. I even have a beer pong tattoo here.
Ah, cool.
Sink it, drink it.
You have to get an ice bath tattooed
Yeah,
over it or something.
So we basically got all our bandmates got the same tattoo. It was kind of like a bandmate thing because we used to call ourselves beer pong pros. And but yeah, I got to a point where I realized like drinking doesn't really do much for me. It was mostly like even to socialize, I only felt more isolated and kind of more in my head always when I drank beer. And so yeah, when I started embracing more of like the proper habits, early wake up routine, that's when I basically gave up drinking. So it's been 3.5 years now. Yeah, I mean, I like the effects. I felt it even if I was drinking once a week then, like it wasn't a lot, but mood stability, more clarity, more head space. Even if you don't drink that once a week, I think you can feel it especially like after a month or so.
Yeah, I do feel bad that I found this out after recommending to you that you had an espresso martini for breakfast. So it made me feel really, really terrible. But yeah,
Hey, if it works for you.
yeah, horses for courses. But no, thank you for sharing that with us. I only asked about it because it's something that I'm seeing pop up a lot in the founder community at the moment, and around on LinkedIn as well. And often you find yourself having to be in one camp or another. Well, I don't necessarily think that you do. You can still socialize and you can still be part of a community and a network, and people should not berate you for having a drink or not having a drink.
Yeah, I've actually, and again, another boundary that I set myself. I've always told myself like when I stop drinking, I want to be able to go out with people and first not resent them, and also being able to like push myself to enjoy the situation even if I don't drink. And so it's always been, again, kind of like a test or an exercise in life.
Yeah, and I think you're a positive person anyway. You certainly don't need to drink to make yourself feel better about anything. You seem quite comfortable in your skin and with who you are. So yeah, I totally get that. Chris, I'm absolutely loving this conversation and I have no idea how long it's been for so far. I imagine that we're probably coming to an end at some point. Before we go into the future, I know we touched on this at the start, but I would urge anybody to reach out to you for a chat around. It would make my life a lot easier if the founders that I work with had an idea of kind of how to create their brand strategy and positioning and in a way that actually tells their message properly and resonates with their ICP as well. So I do think that, at the very, very least, everybody should have a listen to your podcast. What's the podcast called?
The Message Market Fit podcast.
The Message Market Fit podcast. I do win for the easiest one to say, I have to say. The Message Market Fit podcast. And also download the newsletter or subscribe to the news. I've subscribed to the newsletter.
Cool,
and
thank you.
I think it's important that people do that. Certainly, honestly, a lot of the problems that I'm fixing later on down the line now are just symptoms of them getting that wrong 2 years ago. So I will definitely urge them to do that. Absolutely love what you're doing. And on that note, what's next for you? You said you're not after this kind of, you're not after dominating the world and having this world domination. So where are you going with Conversion Alchemy?
Yeah, I think for now, what I'm trying to do, so all my projects, I've mostly been positioning messaging, copywriting projects, so 2 or 3 months. What I want to do now is not expand the team really, but like offer my clients a bit more of a roadmap that we can do together. So maybe 12 or 6 months, just because a lot of times when we finish our projects, then the clients, yes, can do some stuff on their own, but then maybe their LinkedIn ads don't really work or their case studies are not great. And so what if we can actually take them together, at least for that first 6 months or a year, and actually make sure that they find this message market fit everywhere across all assets and across all channels. And so that's one thing that I'm working on. And also I've always had this idea of I want at some point to build some kind of product, whether it's a software product or I don't know, a physical product. I would always explore going into e-commerce at some point. But I've had this idea, but I still have no idea what to build. So maybe it will come at some point.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll collaborate on that because I've got some ideas around that could absolutely use your skill set. Probably one for offline as well. And what about you personally? What's next for you?
I don't know. So far, I'm actually going to Thailand at the end of November, which is going to be nice. So enjoyed the hot weather. And for Christmas, no, it's a bit before Christmas. Christmas, it's Italy and family.
Oh, nice. With your twin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of good food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, personally, I don't know. For now, I've actually been a lot into exploring the samurai mindset. So I'm learning all like philosophies of Confucius, different samurai teachers, Asian philosophy. So that I'm exploring that for the moment. And I don't know,
Interesting.
where will it take me at some point? Maybe do martial arts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you never know. It
Yeah.
could take you in.
I've actually done jujitsu when I was 8 years old, but then like it was just a year.
Right. Okay. Chris, this has just been actually a real tonic speaking to you. You're building something that's so relevant at the moment in the world of go-to-market. Maybe it's more resonating with me because I'm kind of in the same space. But I think it's tough times out there at the moment for a lot of B2B SaaS businesses, and most of them have a pipeline issue, and that isn't fixed by putting more sales reps on the phone and isn't fixed by just doing more paid ads. You've got to take it back a few steps. So I think it's been a very relevant conversation from a product perspective, but also just been great to get to know you a bit better as well. And I really hope that we can work together on some projects at some point in the future. I think it'd be really interesting. How can people reach you? What's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, so they can find me at conversionalchemy.net, my website, where you can sign up for the newsletter. And I'm mostly on LinkedIn, so I write every day on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect and we can chat in the DMs.
Brilliant. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Donna. It's been a
you.
pleasure.